So you want to be a flight instructor, right? Or maybe you already have your flight instructor and you're trying to get into it. You've probably heard in the past that it's by far the best way to get your hours, right? So today we're going to be talking about all the different reasons that I've seen of why CFIs quit before they even make it to the next step in their aviation journey. Number one, the pay is really bad. Now, every flight school is going to have a different sort of pay structure. There's not really an industry standard for flight instructors. Some, you're going to be a salary. Some, you'll get paid a normal hourly wage, just like you would at a normal job. Sometimes you might get a normal hourly wage and then maybe a little bit of commission on top every time you build a flight hour. Or some, you might just be paid straight for flight hours or straight for ground lessons. Some schools might not even entirely pay you for ground lessons. It really just depends. But across the board, what I can say is that flight instructor pay is really bad. If you're working at a school that's only going to pay you per flight hour or per ground lesson, you have to factor in a lot of things like weather and maintenance. Most of the time, those guys, even then, are only going to get paid somewhere between $20 and $30-ish per flight hour. So you could wake up in the morning and see that you have a full day of flights, right? All of a sudden, weather rolls in. All right, there goes 3 flights. All right, and the plane just went down for its 100 hour. There goes another 2. Left with 1 flight left. So you may have gone from thinking, hey, I'm going to make $120, $130 a day to making $30. So the pay is really bad, especially if you live in a place with winter, I guess is a good way to say it. I'm from Indiana, so the winters up here basically cut our flight hours in half, if not even worse. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but you could wake up in the morning having such high hopes for the day, only to get no-showed or weather or maintenance. This leads a lot of CFIs a couple months in to look at their bank account and ask, is this even worth it? And for a lot of them, the answer is no. Reason number 2 is burnout. Let me paint a picture for you. It's middle of summer. These planes don't have air conditioning. Middle of summer, 95 degrees outside, feels like 105. You're up flying around. You're getting thrown around. You're with a student who you've been having to teach this same maneuver for the last 3 flights or landings for the last 3 flights. You're dripping in sweat. You're slamming into the runway over and over. No matter what you say, it's just not getting through to them. That sounds a little exhausting, doesn't it? One of the biggest regrets that I have when I got my CFI is I just got my initial CFI. I didn't pursue my CFII or instrument instructor, and I didn't pursue my multi-engine instructor. So all 1,200 hours of dual training that I have given have been with private pilot students, teaching the same 6 maneuvers over and over, teaching the fundamentals over and over, teaching how to land the plane over and over. Teaching those same things repeatedly takes a toll on you. You get burnt out of it really quick. You say the same thing every single flight all day long. Mix that in with getting thrown around in the summer because of the heat, or weather cancellations in the winter, or just an overall sense of a lack of progress with your students can lead to getting really burnt out really quick. You're not just teaching students how to fly, you're also preparing them for a check ride. You're teaching them how to be safe. You're learning their personality so you can better adjust your teaching style to train them. You're not just a flight instructor teaching people how to fly. You are a therapist. You are a resource for them to come and ask you questions about anything, career advice. You wear a lot of hats as a flight instructor that can also contribute to burnout. It's extremely rewarding, but this aspect of it is what leads to a lot of frustrating moments. If you have gotten this far in your journey, you probably know that flight school maintenance can be a nightmare. Everybody talks about the pilot shortage, but what a lot of people don't talk about is the airplane mechanic shortage. Airlines now are going to mechanic school and trying to find guys straight out of school, and there's no way that a local Part 61 school is going to be able to compete with the salary that they're going to offer you at the airlines. So that leads to a huge deficit when it comes to airplane mechanics. If your airplanes are up flying a bunch, they go down for a 100 hour. Every 100 hours you put on the airplane, and those can take up to a week, 2 weeks. If it starts to build up, they could take 3 weeks. Factor in on top of that, your schedule might be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. All of a sudden you wake up and one of the planes went down for its 100 hour, there go a bunch of flights, and then a thunderstorm cancels a flight in the evening. You went from a full day of flights down to nothing. If you're at a school where your paycheck is heavily reliant on getting those billable hours, maintenance is going to have a huge effect on your paycheck. So if you do want to pursue being a CFI, find a school with an in-house maintenance department and find one that is good at getting those planes done fast and safely, obviously. There's going to be a lot of days where you're just sitting around the airport and waiting to fly, seeing if the plane's going to come back up for maintenance on time, or seeing if the weather is going to clear by a certain flight. You're going to have to sit there and wait for something to happen. And if you're at a school that's getting paid per the billable hour, that's really going to suck. Another thing to mention when it comes to flight instructor schedules is it's often not a 9-to-5 job. Like I said, every flight school is going to be a little bit different. A lot of schools, your schedule is going to be open for more than 40 hours a week. For example, at the place I work at, my schedule is open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. 5 days a week. That's 55 hours per week. A lot of schools, it's kind of like you're on call. Whenever a student wants to fly, you have to be there. That doesn't matter if it's a holiday or if it's weekends. Whatever the case may be, if your student wants to go up and the weather's good and the plane's good, you're going up, which makes it extremely difficult to have a social life outside of this. You might be at the airport from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., have a whole day of cancellations and no-shows. So you've been at the airport for 11 hours, and then all of a sudden you don't get paid and you don't get any flight hours. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something a little bit more commercial in this next part, the flight school culture. The culture at every flight school is going to be a little bit different. Often what it's going to find is they are operated, even the little mom and pop ones, are operated solely like a business, which makes sense because that's what they are. From my experience and what I have seen, often profits take priority over the overall culture of the flight school. Most of the higher ups in a flight school, including management, only get to see the numbers on the paper. They're going to look down and say, hey, we had a really good month or we had a really bad month. How can we improve that? They're not the ones with their boots on the ground, flying with students every day and understanding where these student frustrations are coming from. You wake up one morning and all of a sudden your flight school has raised its rates by $20 per hour per airplane. You are then the one that is going to have to communicate that with your students. On the other side of it, you have some of the larger schools, I'm not going to say their name, that all they care about is getting their students through as fast as possible. Their whole goal is to get them in the door, spend all of their money, get the license, and get out the door. The culture around flight schools, depending on where you go, can be very, very toxic. Before you find a flight instructor gig, make sure that you go into that school and you spend a good amount of time there. Maybe rent from the school a couple of times. Talk to the other instructors there before you get the job there. Do some research. I know that the flight instructor market right now is extremely difficult to get into because it's a little oversaturated because the airline hiring has slowed down. Personally, I would much rather wait a couple of extra weeks or months to find a school where I'm genuinely going to enjoy my time there, as opposed to spending a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years at a school where the culture just is horrible. As a flight instructor, you are going to be overworked and underpaid. At a lot of flight schools, you're going to go to your management and tell them about these issues. And depending on where you work, they might tell you, we have 60 applicants out the door ready to take your spot. At times, it really does suck. Try to make the most of it. Try to keep your head up, prioritize making your students happy, and try to make the best out of your current situation. This right here is a huge reason why flight instructors quit. A lot of flight instructors feel stuck in their current situation. A vast majority of flight instructors, their end goal is to not be a flight instructor for their career. Now, there definitely are some out there, and that's not the ones I'm referring to. Most of the times you get your commercial certificate at about 250 hours, you have to get up to 1,500, so you go be a flight instructor. If you're having a string, let's say it's the middle of the summer, right? Those planes are flying a ton. That means that they're going to go down for maintenance more. Let's say that your flight school is really struggling to find mechanics at the moment. All of your planes go down for their 100 hour, for an annual, whatever it may be. Now, all of a sudden, you're missing out on the best flying months of the year. You're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel like you don't have a choice and that you're kind of just running through the motions every day. A lot of instructors go through this. Or maybe your coworker with less hours and less experience than you just got picked up by a better paying job, one that you applied for just because they simply had the right connections and you didn't. All of the frustrating moments, thinking that you're never going to be done as a CFI, lead a lot of people to quit. Flight instructors are a crucial backbone of aviation, and often they don't receive the appreciation that they deserve, and that alone leads a lot of them to quit. So why doesn't every flight instructor quit? Why do some decide to stick it out? Well, like I mentioned before, flight instructing is often just a stepping stone up to their next goal. So most flight instructors that I see do very well have a clear goal in mind, have a clear path, and they know that there's a means to an end when it comes to this. Second, they find a lot of ways to make the best out of this situation. If they're stuck at a crappy flight school, they could look for another school. If their pay is horrible, hopefully they can negotiate better pay. A lot of times, people just love teaching. They love helping students. They want to see their students be successful in it. And for a lot of them, that's enough motivation to stick through it on their own, is to get their students across the finish line. And they know that flight instructing is just temporary. They know that if they can push through and grind for a year and a half, 2 years, however long it may take you, that there is a very, very well-paying career and a better lifestyle on the other side. At the end of the day, being a flight instructor is tough. You're underpaid, you're overworked. It's a grind. But for those that are able to stick it out, there is a very well-paying, relatively stable career waiting for them. It's one of the most challenging and also yet one of the most rewarding things that I have personally done, and I would argue most flight instructors have ever done. So I'm talking directly to you. If you're a flight instructor that is either just starting out or you feel like you're about to quit, sit down and come up with a game plan and write it down. Figure out what the most challenging parts are and try to come up with a plan of how to make it better. Rather, that would be leave from your current position and find a new flight school. If you have enough hours already, maybe look for something that's not being a flight instructor. Maybe if it's the financial struggles, you come up with a side gig, like start a YouTube channel. Or personally, I drive for Uber on most of my days off just to make ends meet, and then I don't have to worry as much about the financial struggles of it. So come up with a plan. Really do a deep dive of where in this you are struggling and what your biggest motivations to quit are, and see what you can do to fix them. If you don't, it's going to be so easy to get burned out and walk away. You might stay in aviation after that, you might not. And I want to see all of you guys stay within this field. If you're currently a flight instructor and you felt like you're burned out and you're ready to quit, tell me why down in the comments. If you have any questions about anything aviation related, I want to help. Put them in the comments. If you like this style of video and you want to see more of this, it would mean the world to me if you subscribed. I think we're about to hit 500 subscribers at the time of recording this. So if you like this, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya!